Hi, my name is Megan Goodrich and I'm with TNTP. This is a webinar on supporting student teachers in remote or blended learning environments. There are three key learning outcomes for this webinar. The first is to identify how we can support student teachers during virtual and hybrid teaching. We will consider this first from the perspective of educator prep programs, then from the perspective of LEAs and school leaders. But topics in each section will be applicable regardless of whether you are with an educator prep program, an LEA, or are a school leader. Next, we will create plans to support student teachers in virtual and blended learning environments. To do this, there will be prompts throughout the webinar for you to pause the video and make some notes about how you might apply the learning. Finally, we will articulate potential roles and responsibilities for student teachers in a remote and hybrid setting. We'll start by talking about what educator prep programs can do to support student teachers in remote and hybrid learning. First, we want to ensure we're integrating technology. Technology has likely already been a part of training. This has been a necessary skill for years now, and most student teachers are relatively comfortable with some level of technology use. What we need to do now is start thinking about how to use those resources creatively. On the screen, you'll see ways teachers have been using technology to effectively engage and support students during remote and online learning. These include using short videos for differentiated and scaffolded learning, using interactive technology to increase student participation and academic discussions, and using technology platforms appropriately for both formal purposes, like assignment submissions, and informal purposes, like getting to know each other. Take a moment to consider an example of a tech platform you've seen used well since learning has shifted to a virtual space. For example, one of our teacher training programs used Flipgrid, which was new to me when COVID hit, to have participants record getting to know you videos and respond to videos of their cohort members. If you'd like, you can pause this video now and jot down some ways you have seen tech tools or platforms used effectively and how you might support teachers in their use of technology. It is also critical during this time for educator prep programs to support the mental and emotional well-being of student teachers. Some of the most important and effective ways of supporting the mental and emotional well-being of teachers are outlined on this slide. Connection is critical for mental and emotional well-being, and also harder to find when we are all remote. Educator prep programs can identify opportunities for informal social connections that should be optional for participants. Student teachers also note that shared experiences around successes and challenges, as well as collective problem solving and collaboration, also support their well-being. Pause this video and take a moment to jot down what has helped you feel a sense of belonging as part of a new group. Press play again when you're ready. As we navigate remote and hybrid learning and address the interruption in learning that happened when COVID first began, it's more important than ever for teachers to understand priority instructional content. What are the pieces of math and literacy instruction that are absolutely critical for what comes next? What will students need to build on in the coming years? Helping student teachers understand which pieces of instruction to prioritize and supporting them to do so will help ensure that students are successful in years to come. Finally, we've seen that there are an overwhelming number of factors to consider when designing instruction that is remote, hybrid, or even in person but socially distant. It can help student teachers to consider universal design for learning as a foundation for these decisions. We found that by focusing on the most vulnerable students, including students with disabilities and English language learners, we can better provide a strong foundation of instruction for all students and help to address the opportunity and achievement gaps that have widened during the pandemic. Educator prep programs can embrace learner variability and back that understanding up by building knowledge and skill around UDL. We can also teach general educators how to share the responsibility of all learners, including mindsets and skills for collaborating with special educators and other learning specialists. Let's shift to thinking about what LEAs and school leaders can do. School leaders and LEAs can consider infusing trauma-informed practices into staffing policies. So many of our teachers are experiencing trauma right now, and student teachers may be especially ill-equipped with the skills necessary to regulate and cope with secondary trauma from students. There is a wide range of supports for educators, but consider how implementing a school-wide strategy, like the one in this video, might be beneficial for your students.
At Fall Hamilton, our common goal here is the children. Sometimes kids are in crisis, and it's just emotionally draining as a teacher. But at the end of the day, you know that these kids rely on you, so we also need to take care of ourselves. We know you can't help others until you help yourself. Sometimes you just need a minute. 1, 2, 3. You need to step out of your own room, take a deep breath.
As educators, we may be having a rough day, and sometimes we get frustrated too. So we have a tap in, tap out strategy here. If something happens in the classroom, teachers have the ability to contact someone on the text chain. If there's a student that needs some extra support, if the teacher needs extra support, then someone else is able to come in and provide that.
If you need a minute, you can text someone and be like, hey, can you cover my class? Can you give me a second? And we will gladly cover one another.
In terms of faculty support, we feel more supported here in this environment because we know that it's a collaborative effort and everyone is going to be heard.
You'd sometimes just need to ask for help, and it's okay. And it's really accepted here, and it's promoted. No one's alone. We're a ship and we run together, and there's someone always that has your back.
Take a moment to pause this video and make a note of how strategies like tap in, tap out for student teachers can be beneficial for your students. School leaders can also create affinity groups or something similar for student teachers to have spaces to process and debrief with other staff members. These groups allow student teachers to feel supported, create a safe space to share and feel validated, and learn how to better support students from teachers facing similar challenges. Another straightforward way to support student teachers is to provide increased tech support. Technology challenges are the #1 barrier for teachers, students, and families in remote learning. Student teachers who are not already familiar with district technology may face additional barriers navigating technology and platforms of remote and hybrid learning. Plan ahead for how to streamline different types of technology, offer trainings on technology that will be used, create detailed help and use guidelines, and consider having a dedicated support line for tech challenges. School leaders should also take extra care to clarify roles and responsibilities before changes happen. A study of teaching assistants who took on additional roles and responsibilities showed they were more productive when leadership articulated their changed roles. Leaders should also assess whether the student teachers have the skills to carry out the work. We'll talk more on the next few slides about what those responsibilities and roles might be, but first I wanted to encourage you to use the current context to think creatively about the roles of your student teachers. First, now may be the time to look outside of traditional roles and responsibilities to identify ways to build on the strengths of student teachers. Perhaps they are significantly more comfortable with technology and virtual platforms than other teachers. How could you leverage this strength to plan virtual instruction and support students and their families? Second, the virtual setting creates an opportunity to prioritize a focus on instruction. Many student teachers first learn about classroom management, but given the different setting and context, the fact that access to strong instruction is more important now than ever, it could be a good time to consider how student teachers might first focus on instruction while lead teachers support with classroom management and administrative duties. Finally, let's consider tasks that might make sense for student teachers in the virtual or hybrid setting. First of all, best practice is still to use the gradual release of responsibility for student teachers, even though this is especially challenging in a virtual environment. It is important to prepare the cooperating or lead teacher with resources and expectations, making sure that they have the support they need as well to be successful. Allocating sufficient planning time with the lead teacher is also critical for effective gradual release of responsibility in the virtual environment. Student teachers and lead teachers should have sufficient opportunity to rehearse lessons they will be delivering. It can also be helpful to outline a scope and sequence of increased responsibility at the outset of the process, so student teachers are clear on how their responsibilities will change over time. Additionally, here are some of the roles and responsibilities we have seen student teachers successfully take on to support learning and student engagement in virtual and hybrid settings. They can help curate virtual resources. Student teachers working virtually may be well positioned to identify and apply online resources to use in lessons. They can also serve as a thought partner for the lead teacher when planning solutions for adapting to the different learning context. They can also assist with student communications as well as family communications and engagement. This may look like making phone calls, sending text messages, or sending emails to students who have been absent or to follow up on assignments. It might also include drafting a classroom newsletter or sending home recommended at-home learning activities. Student teachers can also monitor live sessions for questions or challenges that are coming up and flag to the lead teacher that additional attention is needed. They can also develop learning resources such as videos or other online or virtual materials that can be used across the grade level or subject area. They can connect with individuals or small groups of students for tutoring or participation in virtual office hours for additional support. Thank you for viewing this webinar. I hope that you are taking away some specific strategies to support student teachers in virtual and hybrid learning. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact Megan Steiner. Thank you.